Hello, everybody. How you doing? All right. Good evening. Good evening. Well, number one, I want to say thank you for being here. Oh, all right. Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for being here. It's an honor, and seriously, it is. I'm really excited about today. Now, I want to say this food is excellent. However, I have not been able to enjoy it because I don't like to eat before I speak. So it looks good. I've seen all of you enjoying eating it. I'm looking forward to finishing this speech so that I can enjoy it and be as happy as the rest of you and get my haters on. All right, so, okay. So I've been tasked today with speaking with you about being all in, okay? So, for me, I've been thinking about that. What does that mean exactly, It sounds really good, okay, to be all in, but it's been pressing on me to think about how exactly is that going to get accomplished, right? Because right now, when I look at hows, right? You see what's like, okay, be all in. And I think about how is that going to happen. I look at what are hows that are out there right now that people are paying attention to, right? And I know that there is at least a 900-page document that has a whole bunch of hows in it, right? But I'm pretty sure that those hows are not focused on being all in, maybe the opposite, right? So that then begs the question, well then, where is the how for the opposite of the 900-page document, right? Where is the how for being all in going forward? So what I'm going to do today, I want to speak with you about the how, right? Not the what. We know what the what is. The what is we're all in going forward. The how we're going to do it is what I'm going to talk about with you today. So on that note, my name is Carlton T. Mayers II, Esquire. I am the CEO, founder, and owner of Mayor Strategic Solutions, LLC. And I'm also a national public safety and policing reform expert. And what I do is I work with communities across the country through my company. Now, when I say communities, I mean law enforcement, I mean community groups, I mean state and local government officials. I also mean private business. And I mean the state and local media, the private media as well, the local media. Now, what I do is I work with them on breaking out of their silos to be able to come together as one community with equity and inclusivity to solve public safety challenges. And the way I do that is through a methodology and through an approach that I developed and informed by my over 15 years of experience as a community lawyer, called the Community Empowerment Centered Approach, and its vehicle, the CAP method. Now, as you can see here, I know the slide already went up, but the CAP method consists of 3 components: C for community empowerment, A for accountability, and T for transparency. And essentially the crux of it, and I'm sorry, this microphone is, I have to figure out how to get it, so there we go, okay. So essentially the crux of the Community Empowerment Centered Approach and the CAP method is that community members, especially those who are living in neighborhoods where you have both high levels of crime, like youth-related crime, gang-related crime, drug-related crimes, community violence, etc., and where there's also a history of high levels of negative police interactions, like racial profiling, excessive use of force, sexual misconduct, etc. So these are people in communities that live in zip codes, blocks, areas in the community, where they have to worry about being safe from criminals and from being safe from law enforcement who act like criminals. So how do they stay safe? How do their families stay safe? How do their grandparents and parents and their kids, when they don't get to come and go out of those communities? They live there. Their kids go to school there. Their parents, they go to church there. Their supermarket is there. How do they stay safe? So, according to the Community Empowerment Centered Approach and the CAP method, they stay safe by, number 1, being involved in. Number 2, having knowledge of. And number 3, having meaningful decision-making authority over all direct police-civilian interactions, like stops, arrests, uses of force, searches, surveillance technology, a really big issue right now. It's going to get bigger next year with artificial intelligence. And when it comes to the way protests are handled, okay? And even, I'd say just as important, also when it comes to strategizing and deploying anti-gun trafficking, anti-drug trafficking, anti-human trafficking strategies. Now, why is that? It's important because the people closest to the problems are also the people closest to the solutions. So if we want to have long-term solutions for long-term problems. We need to make sure that the people most directly impacted by public safety challenges are at the helm of decision-making with law enforcement, working together with all the other public safety stakeholders in the community as one community to support public safety and ensure police accountability through more so proactive rather than reactive strategies. Now, I want to say something. I know I just said a lot, and I know I said that everything I just told you about the community empowerment-centered approach and the CAP method was informed by my work experience, but it actually originated from my lived experience, okay? So, some of you may not know this, I'm not sure if it's in the bio, but I am a very proud born and raised New Yorker, okay? I was born and raised in Queens, New York. Thank you very much. Now, I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm not very proud about what's going on in New York City right now. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm not, but I'm still a proud New Yorker, all right? So, now, growing up in New York City in the 80s and 90s, okay? Everybody talked about, oh, New York's so diverse, one of the most diverse cities in the world. True. Everybody thinks, oh, it's a melting pot. All these different people, cultures, food, language, always intermingling with each other, right? Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. There were parts of New York City back then where you found that high level of intermingling. They were called like Times Square, Broadway, 34th Street Mall. Yeah, you have that there. But for the most part, in the 80s and 90s, New York City was not a melting pot. I'm gonna tell you that right now. It was actually more of a tossed salad, where you still had all the diversity, but it was segregated. Everybody was in their own communities, never traveling out to go to another community, never allowing others from other community to come into their own, okay? That's the New York I grew up in. Now, in New York City, if you did travel to another community, then you ran the risk of getting pushed out or getting beaten up. That was known. Everybody knew that in New York, okay? And everybody adhered to that, the unspoken rule, okay? Now, there was something in New York that we called props. In other words, if you had props in another community, meaning you had a relationship with somebody who was there, you had employment there, you had some reason that you were there, then it was okay for you to be in that community. But you just couldn't be there hanging out. I'm just here to be here. You out of here. We're gonna push you out, we're gonna beat you up. Okay, that's how it works. Now, for me, growing up in New York City as a teenager, I'll be honest, I had a hard time staying in one community. I just did. I wanted to explore. It's New York. Come on, why not? So I would travel to different communities, and I would not get beaten up. I would not get pushed out. And the reason being is that I adhered to 3 principles. I'm gonna lay it out for you. Okay. Number 1, humility. I was humble going into those communities. I didn't go in there expecting people to accommodate me. I didn't go in there saying, hey, look at me, my way or the highway. I went in there being receptive. I went in there engaging from a learning perspective. I'm here to learn. I'm not here to come in set ways as they are, okay? Number 2, authenticity. I always went into communities being my authentic self, okay? I didn't go in there trying to be somebody who I'm not. And at the end of the day, maybe people didn't like me, but they definitely respected me for being who I am. Number 3, intentionality. I was intentional in being humble. I was intentional in being authentic. And that's something that is always greatly appreciated. So, with those 3 principles, I was able to travel to different communities in New York City and enjoy and learn and thrive. Okay? So let's fast forward now. Years later, okay, work experience. Taking these 3 principles of humility, authenticity, and intentionality, and now going into my work experience where, as you all heard, I directed NAACP National Office's Criminal Justice Reform Program. Now, while I was in that role, I traveled to at least 30 states around the country and Washington, D.C., working predominantly with African-American communities on criminal justice reform. However, I also worked with other communities. For instance, First Nation people, Native American communities, undocumented Latino, Hispanic communities, poor white communities, white college students. Now, all of these communities, different demographics, different cultures, different histories. However, they all had negative experiences with the criminal legal system and were seeking solutions through criminal justice reform. Now, how am I going to do that? I'm going to tell you how. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be humble. I'm going to be intentional in being authentic and in being humble. And what does that look like? Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't look like. It doesn't look like me coming down with my general talking points, one size fits all. No. It doesn't look like me going on the internet, looking at some articles and looking at some videos on YouTube. No. It means that when I get on the ground, I ask the people that are there, can I go on a tour with you in your car? You drive me around. I want to go to those neighborhoods where the highest levels of public safety challenges are happening in your community. I want to see it. I want to experience it. I want to read about it. I want to meet the people that live there. I want to talk to them. I want to meet the law enforcement, patrol those areas. I want to talk to them. I want to meet the lawmakers. That's their district. I want to talk to them. And the reason being is that I want to have a comprehensive understanding of what is actually going on so that I can then provide comprehensive solutions for criminal justice reform. And by doing that, we thrived. We thrived. I then transferred to NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund Incorporated, Thurgood Marshall's law firm, where I was policy counsel for the policing reform campaign in Washington, D.C. In that role, I worked on the consent decrees in both Baltimore, Maryland, and Ferguson, Missouri. I also worked on the Walter Scott case in North Charleston, South Carolina. I worked on the Eric Gardner case in New York City. And I lobbied on the Hill for federal policing reform legislation, a lot of which actually has been incorporated into the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. And I did a whole bunch of work with President Barack Obama's administration when I worked at NAACP National and at Legal Defense Fund, respectively, for at least 5 years on a whole bunch of policing reform initiatives out of his White House. And most in particular, the 21st Century Policing Task Force Report recommendations. I worked on that as well. Now, as you've heard, these are all different audiences, okay? Different demographics, different cultures, different histories. Even the Hill itself is its own community, separate from the city of Washington, D.C. Separate cultures, demographics, everything is different. So in order for me to work with all those audiences, I had to make sure that whatever I was providing aligned with their histories, demographics, and cultures. And by doing that, we thrived on finding solutions for improving community police relations, on finding solutions for true police accountability. And now, taking all that experience, let's fast forward a little bit more now, I take all of that and create my company, Mayor Strategic Solutions LLC, and use those same 3 principles, okay, of humility, of authenticity, of intentionality, to create the community empowerment-centered approach and its vehicle, the CAP method. So now taking something that was meant to be personal to interpersonal engagement and now translating it to the community level for engagement and interaction amongst public safety stakeholders to solve public safety challenges. This is how the sausage is made when we're talking about coming up with long-term solutions for long-term problems in public safety. So with that, in my company, I then get hired by the city of Milwaukee, majority black city, red state, and right now one of the most contentious states for this election. I was hired by them in 2020 to work with the mayor's office, Milwaukee Police Department, the Office of Violence Prevention, to also work with the Civilian Oversight Authority and with the Community Collaborative Commission, which consists of families of victims of police violence, NAACP, and direct service providers, all of us working together. They hired me because they knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to create a community-oriented policing plan, or what we call a citywide public safety plan to address both crime and police accountability in one plan instead of doing it separately like most cities do. It does not work. They both feed into each other. You have to do it together. So the question was, how do we do it? Like I said earlier about all in. How? It's a good what, but how do we do it? My answer to them was, well, we're going to be humble. We're going to be authentic. And we're going to be intentional in being humble and being authentic. And what does that look like? Well, number one, the first 9 months out of that 4-year period that we worked on this, We spent meeting in person once a week, all those stakeholders I talked about earlier, trying to figure out war room style. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Who's the audience? How do we define community? Everybody has a different meaning for it. We have to make sure that we are aligned if we want the community to be aligned. The other thing we did is we decided, are we going to do 3 big town hall meetings and check the box, we did community engagement? Or are we going to be humble, authentic, and intentional and do something more nuanced, more granular? We held 16 public safety listening sessions over a period of 2.5 years. Okay, that's commitment. And we decided, okay, we're going to do that. Do we do one facilitator? Do we do a local person? People are like, no. People are going to have issues. Oh, I don't like that person because of this. They got baggage because of that. They don't like my cousin. Whatever. Okay, we're going to do a national outsider. No. We need to reinvest the money back into the community. Okay, well, let's do both. So then they brought in a national expert, myself, and a local person, and we co-facilitated 16 public safety listening sessions for 2.5 years. Once a month for 2 to 4 hours, one session per city council district. Why? Because it's about being equitable and inclusive, okay? Everybody lives in the neighborhood, regardless of race, socioeconomic, whatever. Everybody has a seat at the table and has a voice. So we want to make sure we created a process that reflects the outcome that we seek, equity and inclusivity. So that's why we did that. Something else we did, we also said, okay, Milwaukee PD was like, we like what you're doing. We want you to use technology to do this. That's what we've been doing in our meetings at Milwaukee PD. Something called Mentimeter. It's an app you download on your phone. It makes your meetings more interactive, makes them more accessible online, in person. We were like, okay, we've never used it before. It was a game changer. A game changer. Especially when you're talking about engaging with young people. Because now, instead of the conversation being on the easel paper, on the chalkboard, it's on your cell phone. It's on the tablet. It's on the laptop. Where are these young people? I'm going to ask you. Where are they? Thank you. They're on their phone. So how can we expect to solve public safety challenges involving young people when we're asking them to get off your phone and look at something else? They're not going to do that. We got to bring the conversation to the phone. Okay? We did it in Milwaukee. And guess what? The youth loved it. The youth loved it. Why? Because it's on the phone. They're on the phone anyway. Okay? So it was more engaging, more participation, and that's good for everybody because you need that information that they have. Okay? The issues are with the youth. The solutions are with the youth. So we did that in Milwaukee. Once again, being humble, being authentic, being intentional in being humble and authentic. Something else we did, we brought in a think tank called the Wisconsin Policy Forum. They came in, they're known for doing policing reform white papers and budgetary white papers. They came in, they attended each one of the listening sessions. So I developed the run of show, the program, and I co-facilitated all of them. They showed up to each one of them, writing down notes. Okay, what are the public safety stakeholders saying about what are the challenges in the community around public safety? What the solutions could be, and how they themselves can contribute to the solutions, because we all know, and I see the chief there, he and I, we've been talking about this, and he knows too, that law enforcement cannot, should not, and to be honest, really don't want to do everything, okay? There are community-based resources that are equipped to do work, but they need to be coordinated with law enforcement to do it appropriately. That has to happen. That takes humility, it takes authenticity, and it takes intentionality with being humble and authentic. So we had them there, they documented everything, and then they produced a report. And I would ask all of you, please check out the report. It was published in April of this year, and it encapsulates everything I'm talking about with you. It's called the Wisconsin Policy Forum's Common Ground Report. Common Ground Report. In that report, we don't only have the findings, we have the recommendations, we have the solutions. And the way we came up with it, we said, okay, 3 sets of solutions. One set, these are recommendations based on what people in the community said that Milwaukee's good on. Boom, they got the resources, we're gonna continue to move on that. Second set, these are the things that Milwaukee's not as strong on. They have the resources, but they just need to be reoriented so that they could do better. And then the last set, These are the things Milwaukee's not good at, and they don't have the resources. For that last set, you know what we did? Once again, being humble, being authentic, and being intentional, and being humble and authentic. We said, okay, let's see what other cities are doing that are considered the national models to be national evidence-based best practices when it comes to solving public safety challenges. So I worked with Wisconsin Policy Forum to do a 24-peer city analysis, where we looked at cities like Cincinnati, Ohio, Omaha, Nebraska, Newark, New Jersey, who are doing the work. And we said, okay, number one, what are you doing? Number two, how are you doing it? And then number three, because Milwaukee's not Omaha, Milwaukee's not Cincinnati, and it's definitely not Newark. How can we custom tailor what you're doing to fit what we need here in Milwaukee? Okay? This is how the sausage is made on solving public safety challenges. You're using what you already have in your background, in your backyard. And then you're saying, okay, what we don't have, let's look out and bring it in. Okay? This is how we do it. And so in that report, you'll find all of that. And now what we're going to do in Milwaukee is we're going to take all those recommendations and solutions. We're going to create that community-oriented policing plan or citywide public safety plan. We're going to codify it via local ordinance and then ultimately municipal charter amendment for long-term sustainable change in public safety. This is how the sausage is made, okay? Humility, authenticity, and intentionality. So, with that said, I'm gonna wrap it up. And with that said, I heard somebody say, yeah. Don't worry, I got you. I can listen. I'm hungry, so I want to eat some food too. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. But so with that said, when I think about what does all in mean going forward, right? And I think about what does that mean for Wichita? All right. Well, come on now. You're gonna listen to this one. This is about you. So you want to listen to this. So I think about Wichita, and I think about, okay, what does all in look like for Wichita? Because we have to understand that no matter what happens next year, we all have to still live in the same neighborhoods and communities with each other. We all have to still live in the same country together, and we all have to still live on the same planet together, okay? So my question is, how do we do that all in and thrive? And thrive, okay? And if you ask me, I look at Wichita and I look at the public safety situation, I'm seeing youth-related stuff, gang-related stuff, drug-related stuff, community violence, but I'm also seeing a lot of good work happening already with law enforcement and community working together, right? So that's right. Please applaud. And Chief Senator, can I give you some credit for that? So either way, what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying that there's not more work to get done here, but I'm saying that you're starting with a good foundation, all right? So when I look at what does all in look like for Wichita, my answer is this. The same answer I had for Milwaukee, the same answer I had for President Barack Obama, the same answer I had for NAACP National, and the same answer I had when I walked into communities as a kid and as a teenager and tried not to get beaten up and pushed out, all right? Which is, you gotta be humble, you gotta be authentic, and you have to be intentional in being humble and authentic. And in my opinion, the best way, let me take that back, one of the best ways to do that is through the community empowerment-centered approach and its vehicle, the CAP method. C for community empowerment, A for accountability, and T for transparency. So thank you very much.